Move to decrease the town government budget by $100,000.
Is there a second? Okay.
That ends that.
Second.
I will entertain another motion on the general government budget. Would anyone like to put forward another motion on the general government budget?
I will put forward a motion to reduce the proposed increase by $345,000.
So the proposed increase right now is $900.
And $22,000.
Okay. Where's our little sheet here? So you're recommending that we cut the proposed budget by, you said 345, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's your 2.5%.
Yes, that gets the general government budget down to 2.5% increase
Okay.
from 3.99.
All right, so I heard a motion to cut the municipal budget increases by $345,000. Is there a second? Is there a second? Steve?
Not for me. I think it's, as much as I'd like to get the mill rate down, I think it's, I think that's a little aggressive.
Okay. Is there a second? I'll second that. Discussion on the motion.
I'm back to looking at the ratio between the two budgets, and if we're decreasing the Board of Ed by 115, proportionally, it seems like the town should be less than 340. I'm sorry, what's the motion of the?
It's okay. The
It's
motion
the
is to reduce the proposed municipal budget increase by $345,000.
345, that is what it is, okay. I think that's putting too much of the weight of the decrease on the municipal budget.
Okay.
So let's call for a vote then.
Well,
Camille.
Yeah, I would still like to discuss that. And while I appreciate what you're saying, Bill, and that's absolutely true for this fiscal year, if I look at a 4-year average of the budget increase between the Board of Ed and the general government increase over the past 4 years has been on average 3.11%, where the Board of Ed has had over the same 4-year period an average increase of 2.56%. Last budget season, we cut the Board of Ed's budget. I had recommended $500,000 because I thought that would equate to the operating expenses on the low end of one of the elementary schools. And this board did support a $450,000 decrease in their budget last year. So while I understand your concern this year of how it may appear, if you look at the trend, again, it gets back to Lisa's, what she says, we would love nothing more than to give everybody what they want, but it's about making hard choices and prioritizing. And so that's why this year I think it's okay if it's a little lopsided on the Board of Ed's side for this 1 year.
Other discussion on the motion to reduce
So-
municipal?
So those numbers came out of research that you did, or is that?
These numbers came out of the budget books that I've received for the past 4 years.
Okay, then I did something wrong, I guess, because what I did when they handed out the rates for the Board of Ed, I plotted them versus the town. And I had the
Also,
town.
remember, the Board of Ed budget is twice as big as municipal, so.
But as a percentage, I mean, if the cost of living in the town, if everybody uses the same electricity, everybody's got generally the same health insurance, everybody's got the same everything, then you would expect if the operating expenses of the school to go up 5%, then the operating expenses of the town would go up 5%. So, I would think, right? So if everybody's wages are going up the same amount, and everybody's electricity is going up the same amount.
Yeah, to be
everybody's-
fair, but the percentages are off. I know where you're going, and of course I'm
The
shoot
state is
myself
the
in the
part-
foot here. But their a majority of their budget is wages. I think it's 70-something%
It's almost
is
80%.
wages.
Yes.
Right. We have a lot of capital. We pay for their
It's got the
lawsuits,
same
and
complexion.
we pay
we
for
have the
their
debt, too.
And the part that I
And
struggle with
we carry all
is-
their debt
Right.
on our budget.
And the
Right.
part of the part I struggle with is the state funds, if the state percentage stays the same every year, if it's dipping down or if it's going up. And I don't see how much this Board of Ed gets from the state every year, if that percentage has stayed level, or if it's gone up or down. Because that also comes,
The ECS,
I think it's been flat funded.
I think it's been flat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what I can ask for with a decreasing enrollment, I suppose, but with increased mandates like special ed, which is out of control. Some of the mandates that have come down, not just special ed, but all sorts of mandates.
So it just feels to me like with the school board, with the Board of Ed taking 115 cut, I mean, it's less than a 2-to-1 ratio for the town as a whole to get less than 250. Seems like the municipals paying more than their fair share. So that's closer to the number that I was looking for.
It depends if you think there's more float, if you will, or more opportunities
I don't.
in one budget or
I
the other.
don't. I
Okay.
feel like when I went through all the budgets, it feels like they're both tight.
Okay.
It both feels like they've both done a lot of good work to get costs down. I
Okay.
don't see a lot of fluff anywhere.
All right. So the motion before us has been seconded to cut the general government increases by $345,000. If there's no more discussion, we can either take a vote on that or consider amending that motion.
We should take a vote on it, I think.
Okay, all those in favor for cutting the general government increases to by $345,000, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Steve? Steve?
Hey, technology, great.
2-2 doesn't carry.
Steve?
You got me again?
No, I said, what's your vote?
No, I was in May.
Oh, he was
Oh, you're a nay. Okay, so that did not carry. Okay, I will entertain another motion on the general government budget.
I would like the motion next to the microphone, to decrease the municipal budget by $250,000 based on the ratio between the budgets in whole and the amount of margin throughout.
Is there a second? Cutting the budget by $250,000, proposed budget. Is there a second?
You getting on that list?
I am not. I think we're somewhere in between that.
You're looking at what, 275 if I were a betting man?
Okay, I can, or 3, but I'm 250 is not the right number for me. Do you want to second Bill's motion or not?
No, that's all right then. I see where we're going. So I was going to say 275 because I was looking at the overall impact. Of
So
those
there's
two
no
on the
second to
rate.
Bill's motion.
No seconds.
So there's
to
no
that.
second.
So if you want to make a new motion,
390, which is like,
Okay, so we're going to make another motion.
okay, good.
I'll entertain another motion on the municipal budget.
All right, I'll make a motion at 275.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second that, 275. Discussion on that motion.
No, I think it's as close as we're gonna get
So
towards what I was saying. I can support that.
you can support 275.
Can you give me a second to run some
I sure
numbers? Where's my?
So we're what, 390, which, so that's Gannon, but that's what, like a 0.6 or 0.58 mil increase?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Steve.
Huh?
Somewhere
Yeah.
between 0.58 and 0.59.
So that would bring us in generally where? 25.3 or something like that?
Yeah, well, we're currently at 2471, right, Anna? 2471 plus 0.58. That would be 25.29.
Keeping in mind that if the elementary school building project moves forward through all the boards and passes that referendum, that's going to add at least half a mil.
Right.
In 2 or 3 years, we'd go out to bond some of that. So, that's future years. Oh, no, it would go, for the current process, it would be 1.2 mils, I think, in the high years. For a $34 million project, it would add 1.2 mils.
And when's the high years
At
is,
least.
is that
Geez,
220?
Camille, I think you were using some of those calculations when we were working on that and just kind of brainstorming. You were using a $250,000 assessed value, but that's not the average. The average is much higher. On a $250,000 assessed home, you were looking at numbers, but of course the mill rate's the same on everybody. I
Right.
think it was a 1.3, a 1.4 max. Maybe it's a 1.2 on
Was that for the-
$34 million. But again,
Right,
that's 2
right.
or
So
3
my
budget seasons
yeah.
from now.
Yeah.
And in that, there's other things that the town will be not buying as well. Because we're going to need them. Because when we defer the purchasing that I'm going to be deferring this year, like police cars and dump trucks and all the things that we're not going to buy this year, that just means we're going to be buying them the same year we're building a school. But we're going to put them off this year. Right.
So
Right.
there's a motion on the
There is a
floor
motion and has been
and-
seconded.
for 275?
Correct. Yes.
And we've discussed that.
Yes. So that's Steve's motion. I think I seconded that.
You did second it.
Bill has commented he could support that.
1, 2, 3.
So do we take a vote?
I'm ready to call for a vote. I just didn't know if you had discussion on that, any more discussion. You asked me to wait while you ran some numbers.
I'd be a little more comfortable in the 300 range.
And I'd be a little more comfortable closer to 200.
Okay? Well, let's see
So,
where we go then.
250 would have been in there, wouldn't it?
I should have went with you, Bill.
All right,
Should've
so
went
the
with
motion
you.
before us is to cut the proposed general government budget
They
increase
just
by
saying.
$275,000.
Just-
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
You know me.
Okay, abstained, it's a 4-1.
No, I took a no
She's
vote because
opposed.
I wanted it closer,
I got
and
it.
I should have went with Bill.
You should have gone
It's a
with me.
4-1.
4. You said abstain. So-
No, I meant, are there anybody, it's just a, you know. Okay,
4-1. Oh, wait, no, wait.
I figured that was
5-1.
That was the best we get.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh,
Steve.
4-1. Sorry,
410.
sorry, Jason.
We got Charlie on the phone.
Steve.
Okay.
Okay,
I
thank you,
know,
everybody,
but I
for
included
that.
Jason in my 5 count.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for that. So that brings us to the next part of our meeting, which is public discussion. Are there any folks from the public that would like to address the board this evening? Going twice, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Kyle Doughton, 5 Rockwell. Kyle
Doughton.
Doughton, 5 Rockwell.
Thank you.
And I'm going to be a little less formal than some of the people that spoke at the beginning of the meeting, but I'm here on several different accounts, and I'll first by saying that I have a son in our school system, as well as a daughter that will be attending our school system, and my wife is a teacher in our school system. And I own a business in town, and have lived here my whole life as well as my family, so that's kind of where all this is going to come from. But first I'd like to say I appreciate you guys approving the school budget at where it was and making the several notes about the fact that the teachers are paid, very low in their DIRG. My mom's a teacher in Waterford, and so I know the discrepancy between the two towns, and there is a significant one, and we are losing teachers, so I appreciate that. And in regards to the school budget, different than a lot of the people that have been up here to speak before, first I'd like to say thank you to Beth for attending some of the meetings that I've attended. I think one of the biggest problems with this school remodel project is the lack of transparency and the lack of involvement between the different boards. I've learned a lot tonight by coming to the meeting, but I don't think you're going to be able to get all the townspeople to all the Board of Finance meetings, all the Board of Selectmen meetings, and all the meetings out there. So if you guys would be more involved in the public forums that are held by the Board of Education regarding such a large capital improvement project, I think it would be very helpful to understand the fact that the town carries the debt of the Board of Education what the major plan would be for one of these schools if it was given back to the town, because the term given back to the town doesn't mean anything to me. It just means moving it from one budget to the other. And so when you're voting on things like this, it makes a big difference to how we view it and how we comment on things, as well as the fact that the Board of Finance has also, seems like, used the school budget as a bargaining chip for this 2 schools versus 3 schools thing, which is putting a lot of pressure on the Board of Education from the parents and the people in town. So I think that that's important that the townspeople know that, and that's basically how it's being done. Mr. Nickerson made the comment that we didn't need to vote until a capital improvement plan was in place and the end result, or come out and speak in regards to this, and I feel that that's very incorrect, in the fact that, like, that's one of the biggest problems, and the reason this has been going on for 6 years is because we haven't had it laid out to us and had multiple boards working together to give the townspeople, and especially the parents and the Board of Education, a clear plan on this. So that's basically why I'm up here, and I wanted to wait till the end of the meeting for it, because I wanted to hear what you had to say, and I was very impressed with a bunch of the comments that were made tonight, but they would have been very helpful 3-4 weeks ago as I was sitting in Board of Education meetings, listening to them deliberate on how to present a plan to you guys to get it to go to referendum. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Ma'am?
Maya Vargas, 18 Pontiac Drive. This is the first Board of Finance meeting where you voted on the Board of Education budget that I didn't want to leave in tears, so thank you. That was for not cutting as much as has been cut lately. And like everybody here at least saw how well that Board of Ed did present this year and gave you the transparency that you were looking for. And then I don't really have to say anything else because Kyle said the exact thing that I would have said. So that's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Other folks wishing to speak?
I'd like to say one thing.
Marvin, 1 second. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Kelly Strike, 20 Brook Road. And I do appreciate your professionalism in dealing with the budget tonight. I know it's not easy. I heard your difficulties in determining. But I think this may come back to the lack of transparency because there's just some things that come up in the discussion, and I'm looking at the retraction of the facility plan, which was $58 million going forward, and that was looked at as a positive thing. But on the other hand, it could have been done in a phased approach and actually cost a little less if the one school came in at 24 or 28 million as opposed to the one school that's coming in now at 34 million. And also,
Yes. Excuse me.
let's see, and I think that further addressing the potential to repurpose Lily B. Haynes, again, this probably is a transparency thing, but I can see the benefit to the town for some of the consolidation issues, for doing patches on older buildings. Would Lily B. make more sense? There still is a lease potential there. Let's see, and I'm concerned about the expenditures. Once an asset is gone and off the books, if one of the schools is closed and it's sold, and then down the road there's needs. We know there's needs for a police department. If there's other needs for other town offices, then there's going to be another additional expense. So I'm just looking at the new plan, the revised plan, which has one school, 34 million, a Band-Aid on another school. It doesn't address some of the other relocation of town offices. Has, in the long run, is it beneficial? And that's what I think maybe where we need the transparency. And I also know, just in my experience of reviewing the information that has been put forward that I have seen, I even have other ideas of creative options that could be done. And, I think that it would be warranted to have those discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Other folks wishing to address the board? Marvin.
Marvin, can you rise? If not, you can shout really loud.
Well,
the shout would be yay, because this has been a learning experience for me after serving the town in so many different ways to know what it takes to get a budget. The other thing that I just wanted to say is that communication works very well in marriages. And I think if we have good communication between us of the Friends of Smith's, what's the name?
Samuel Smith.
Samuel Smith House, that we can get the job done to everybody's satisfaction and in a responsible way.
Thank you. Other folks wishing to address the board? Okay, we will move on to board comments. Yes, Beth.
I just wanted to say one thing about the first proposal. There was never a first proposal ever presented to us, and there still hasn't been a proposal presented to the Board of Finance. And the reason why I'm saying that is I think at one point there were several letters that would come in saying, you have to do the right thing, move this forward, you're sitting on it. Well, we weren't sitting on anything because nothing's ever come to us. I just want to clarify that and still nothing has come forward for us to look at and vote one way or the other to send it to a referendum. And I will attend any community meetings that the Board of Ed has on the project to get better educated.
I'll just add to that sentiment that I know that a lot of members of this Board of Finance have attended those community forums regarding the elementary schools project, and that's how I feel like we are so knowledgeable about the numbers that are going into those studies. And we will continue to do so to the best of our ability.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bill, any comments?
I think it'd be nice if we could do this kind of frontwards instead of backwards, because it seems like a lot of the school building stuff is being done backwards, right? It's like, well, here's this for $9,000. Now we don't like that. Well, here's this for $10,000. It would be nice if we could figure out what budget we could afford and then go out and do some research and see what that would really get us. And it seems like that's the frontwards way of doing this instead of the backwards way of doing it. That's me. That's the way I do what I do. Other than that, I've found... Excuse me?
I'm sticking with you.
Okay.
Spoken from a real finance professional.
It just feels like that's the way to make this less painful, right? I mean, I've been attending a lot of meetings about this school as well as everybody else. I personally like the community orientation of two campuses, bringing the library, bringing the high school and the school together, and getting these kind of communities, and then we can add resources to those things. Yes, there's a shortage of playing fields, and that's a problem, and I can't, in my mind's eye, without going over towards the library maybe with roads. But anyway, I think if we go in with the right approach, a holistic approach, and not this kind of shotgun thing, I think we'd do better. I think this first time through this budget process has been educational. And seeing it from a distance is a little bit different than seeing it firsthand. And that's about all I got.
Thank you, Bill.
Do you want to wrap it up? So could I
Not yet.
request a space and
I
you
wanna
go
ask
first?
Steve if he
Okay,
has
because I have just a couple of comments, if you don't mind.
Steve, any board comments?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just want to certainly thank the board and all the people's time and effort put into this, because they are challenging times. So, yeah. Happy to default to you guys, but now it's been what now, our seventh?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think this has been certainly one of the most challenging, that we're up against some hard decisions and some large projects that are going to have a big effect on the community. Yeah. I look forward to working on this school proposal. I think just like Bill, our input can be much more positive and transparent.
Okay, thank you. So first, thank you to my colleagues for working hard on the budget and taking the time to be really thoughtful and bring forward details and respect each other's opinions and try to come to some consensus. It's really enjoyable to have that relationship with all of you. So thanks for that. A couple things. I guess I would address this to the public if there's folks that are watching this. I've heard comments about transparency. So to address the concerns about meetings being on the same night, I mean, clearly we have some room to improve there. I guess I didn't know there was a Board of Ed meeting tonight because I'm not in charge of the calendars and I'm not trying to abdicate responsibility, but that's how it fell out. But I think what we're hearing is that we have to do a little bit better and have a calendar in front of us. I know these are special meetings, and we will try to do that, but I will say that it's not easy to do that during budget season. It doesn't mean that we can't do a better job, but what I would ask the public to do is trust that there is no malintent behind that. We're doing the best we can, and sometimes we mess up and schedule 2 meetings on the same night. I'm sure I speak for the whole board when I say we are not trying to withhold anything from anyone. So I would ask for your patience and understanding with some of our ineptness with scheduling. Also regarding the school, I think part of our struggle here is that folks don't always understand what the process is. And we on our boards assume they do, and I don't know if there is a vehicle to explain that to the public officially, and you may hear it in one venue and not, and then some people not, and, our human nature, we might make assumptions that we're not going to be heard. All of our boards want to hear the public and hear what they feel about these. And there's different strategies. Bill just talked about, let's start what we can afford and work backwards. Some other folks think we should work the other way and choose what we want and then make it fit. I will tell you there's no right way to do it. There's a lot of interests competing in the town, and it is not an easy answer to fit everyone's needs and strategies. But again, I would ask that we work together in our wonderful little town and assume the best in each other. And if we don't know how something is working, please ask, and we would be happy to explain it. And if because we're all in this together, so sometimes I think we've kind of gotten off track here, and I don't think any of us want to do that. So I look forward to trying to work through a solution for our schools, and I just ask for the town's support for our job for that. And thanks for the public for showing up tonight and giving us your opinion. Your presence here matters to us. Thank you.
You're welcome, and
Sure.
thank you. If I may, I
You
have
may.
a few comments. First of all, I don't think we messed up on the scheduling of meetings on the same night. It happens all the time. I have 3 meetings scheduled on Wednesday night, 2 on Thursday. And we had a Costco meeting in here on inland wetlands while we met next door because of the scheduling. Because your meetings it's budget season and there's 6 or 7 or 8 special meetings we have to squeeze into a schedule. Unless we're meeting on Saturdays and Sundays, we're not going to avoid meetings. Now, this particular interest group is the schools, and we're glad that there's people with passion in this town. That's why our schools are so good, because we have people for decades, for generations, who have been passionate about education. But the same token, there might be someone who's passionate about inland wetlands, but there's historic properties going on the same night, or Board of Selectmen, for instance. So this is always going to happen. So we didn't mess up. There isn't an ineptness to it. We certainly don't want to schedule a Board of Ed public hearing or on the same night as a Board of Ed meeting, but we'd certainly catch that and all that. So and as much as you deliberated on the Board of Ed budget tonight, I know that they've probably already received a text and gotten the message with their budget's been cut, and they'll certainly get it in the morning anyway, and they'll see your comments. I was enthused of your trust in the Board of Ed's budget, especially Mrs. Alberti. I was at a Board of Selectmen go as ex officios, and we rotate that schedule. And I was there during their budget deliberations, and I applauded them for the hard work that they did. And there was actually a consensus there, like, should we leave a little bit for the Board of Finance to cut? Because that's what is said. And the comments were no. Let's be honest and transparent, and let's show what our needs are. Yeah, you came in and you cut a little bit more off the top anyway, but you had some trust in this budget, and I applaud them. They did great work, and I've been around for it's my 17th year, and it's serving the town, and this is by far the best budget I've ever seen come forward to the Board of Finance. So I applaud them. I applaud you for recognizing that, and the relationship that you all are talking and visiting each other's meetings. And subcommittees, etc. It's dead on. Camille mentioned Gateway. Only 25% of that project is built out. And you did mention the Costco, and there's a mall envisioned behind True Value, which will have a couple dozen stores, outdoor mall, living center they call it, much like the Evergreen Walk or Mashpee Commons down the Cape. If that were to ever be built, that was the number, that $4 million that we might be able to hold back for a couple of years on taxes or reduce taxes or to go make those capital purchases without a debt. And that is common. I don't think we as a town reneged on our promise there or backed down on it. I think that's still coming. Do we have a new high taxpayer in town? Yeah, we have those apartments, and they are providing a significant impact to our grant list. So that's cool. The historic properties, the Board of Selectmen has the obligation to work with the town buildings, and we will have to work something out. It's also unfortunate the Board of Selectmen that voted to buy the town buildings and were promised in the minutes that it wouldn't cost any money, and there's a commitment there. But we'll work it out. I'm enthused by Mr. Christensen talking about a dinner dance I had brought up, or a town-wide clam bake, and we really kind of just get everyone to come out and pay $30 and clams and lobsters on the property, see the property maybe, or maybe we do it off property first couple of years because there is a liability concern as we talked about. But let's find a fundraiser. The New London Rotary Club has bash at the beach. No, it's not bash. It's beer bash at the beach or something. It's a beer tasting thing twice a year. They make like $20,000 or $25,000 every time they do it. And they do it twice a year. Now, I'm not suggesting we're going to do that on a town property. But we got to find something where it's an annual thing. The Rotary Club makes $25,000 when they have their gala. And by the way, if you need tickets, the event is on April 16th. It supports our town. It's at the Mystic Marriott, and I hope you all come. So we'll talk later about that. I have negotiated no permanent contracts yet. Everything that is in our budget and the wage line and the step line and all that is coming inherited. Now, we did negotiate some Band-Aid contracts because we couldn't come to terms, because we were so far apart. We decided to at least pay people. So we did Band-Aid these contracts, so I'll take the hit on that. But going forward, we are negotiating two significant contracts coming. Well, one significant contract and one little contract, and the police will come up next year. And we have some room to consider. So we will we'll engage in that. I'll talk to town attorney. I'll look at the charter that speaks directly to the Board of Selectmen being responsible for that. But maybe having you come in and listen in on it, and then engaging us in our caucus when we break might not be an unhealthy position for us all to take. So I'm certainly open to